The Babes in the Wood. Okay, this is a traditional English children's tale. It's also been the subject of a pantomime for many years. This ballad or poem or story is very old. It was first published in, I think, 1595. But it goes back further than that. Folklore says that this took place in Wayland Wood in Norfolke, but there are other claims that it took place in Lancashire. This story is a children's story, although in my opinion it's really rather violent for a children's story. But I suppose things were different in years gone past. So, now ponder well, you parents dear, the words which I shall write. A doleful story you shall hear, in time brought forth to light. A gentleman of good account in Norfolke dwelt of late, who abjured honour far surmount most men of his estate. So listen, parents, listen to these words. You'll hear a sad story that has come to light, and it's about a well-to-do gentleman from Norfolk who rejected many honours that he could have had for a person of his position in life. So sick was he and like to die, no help his life could save. His wife by him as sick did lie, and both possessed one grave. No love between these two was lost, each was to the other kind. In love they lived, in love they died, and left two babes behind. So this man, he was ill and he was going to die, and there was nothing that could be done to save him. And his wife lay beside him sick as well, and it was clear they were both going to the grave. They were both going to die, and they loved each other very much, and they were kind to each other. But they died, and they left two babies behind them. One a fine and pretty boy, not passing 3 years old. The other a girl, more young than he, and framed in beauty's mould. The father left his little son, as plainly doth appear, when he to perfect age should come, £300 a year. So there was a boy who was 3 years old and a girl who was younger than that, and they were both beautiful children. And the father left his son, who looked just like his father, £300 a year when he should come of age. It's interesting because I've read later versions of this where it's more money, and that's for it counts for inflation. And to his little daughter Jane £500 in gold, to be paid down on marriage day, which might not be controlled. But if the children chanced to die, ere to age should come, their uncle should possess their wealth, for so the will did run. So, and his daughter Jane was left a dowry of £500 to be paid on the day that she was married, and she would have control over that money. But if the children died before they reached their age of majority, then the will said that the money would pass to their uncle. Now, brother, said the dying man, look to my children dear. Be good unto my boy and girl, no friends else have they here. To God and you I recommend my children dear this day, but little while be sure we have within this world to stay. So the dying man says, "Brother, please look after my children. Treat my boy and girl well, because there are no other friends for them on this earth. And I'm asking you to look after my dear children, because I'm not going to live very much longer. You must be father and mother both, and uncle all in one. God knows what will become of them when I am dead and gone." With that bespake their mother dear, "O brother kind," quoth she, "you are the man must bring our babes to wealth or misery." So the father said to the uncle, "You must be both father, mother and brother to the kids, because what's going to happen to the children when I'm dead?" And their mother said, "My brother, you must look after our children. You must bring them up so that they become, well, either happy or rich or miserable, sad people. And if you keep them carefully, then God you will reward. But if you otherwise should deal, God will your deeds regard. With lips as cold as any stone, they kiss their children small. God bless you both, my children dear." With that the tears did fall. So they're still talking to the brother, and they say, if you look after the children well, then God will reward you. But if you don't, then God will see what you have done. And then with their stone cold lips they kissed the children and said, "Bless you," and everybody started crying. These speeches then their brother spake to this sick couple there: "The keeping of your little one, sweet sister, do not fear. God never prosper me or mine, nor aught else that I have, if I do wrong your children dear, when you are laid in grave." So then the brother spoke to them, to the sick couple, and he said, "My sweet sister, I will look after your little ones. If I promise that if I don't look after them, then God will curse me, and nothing of mine will prosper, and nothing that I have will do well, if I do anything wrong to your dear children when you are in the grave." The parents being dead and gone, the children home he takes, and brings them straight unto his house, where much of them he makes. He had not kept those pretty babes a 12-month and a day, but for their wealth he did devise to make them both away. So the parents died, and the uncle took them to his home, where he looked after them very well. But a year had not gone by when he started to make plans of a way to get their wealth and to kill them. He bargained with 2 ruffians strong, which were of furious mood, that they should take these children young and slay them in a wood. He told his wife an artful tale, he would the children send to be brought up in fair London, with one that was his friend. So he got 2 villains, 2 criminals, who were very aggressive and very unpleasant criminals, and he bargained with them to get them to take the children and kill them in a wood. And then he told his wife a lie. He said that he was going to send the children to be brought up in London with a friend of his. Away then went those pretty babes, rejoicing at that tide, rejoicing with a merry mind they should on cock horse ride. They prate and prattle pleasantly as they rode on the way, to those that should their butchers be, and work their lives decay. So the pretty children, the beautiful children, were really happy at that news, and they were rejoicing that they should ride a cock horse. They would be riding horses, and they prattled and they talked and they were happy. They talked happily as they rode along the way, and they talked to the people who were accompanying them, who were the criminals. And these were the people that would be their butchers, the people that would kill them and end their lives. So that the pretty speech they had made murder's heart relent, and they that undertook the deed full sore did now repent. Yet one of them more hard of heart did vow to do his charge, because the wretch that hired him had paid him very large. So the beautiful speech of the children, the beautiful way they talked, made the murderers feel guilty or feel bad or relent about this. And the murderers who'd agreed to kill them felt really, really sad about this, about the idea of killing them, and they changed their minds. But one of them had a harder heart. One of them was more murderous, and he promised to do what he had been asked to do, because the person that had hired him had paid him a lot of money. So he'd been paid a lot of money to kill the children. So one changes his mind, but the other doesn't. The other won't agree thereto, so here they fall to strife. With one another they did fight about the children's life. And he that was of mildest mood, the other there, within an unfrequented wood, the babes did quake for fear. So the other wouldn't agree to killing the children. So one had changed his mind, but the other hadn't. And then they start to argue, and then they fight about the children's life. And he that was of mildest mood, the one who was gentler, the one who had decided not to kill them, not to murder them, killed the other criminal inside a wood where nobody ever went. And the children, they trembled with fear. He took the children by the hand, tears standing in their eye, and bade them straightway follow him, and look, they did not cry. And 2 long miles he led them on, while they for food complain. Stay here, quoth he, I'll bring you bread when I come back again. So he took the children, and there were tears in the children's eyes, and he bade them, he bade them, he told them to follow him directly and not to cry. And he led them for 2 miles into this wood, and they were complaining that they were hungry. And he said, stay here, I'll bring you bread when I come back again for you. And he left them. Those pretty babes with hand in hand went wandering up and down, but never more could see the man approaching from the town. Their pretty lips with blackberries were all besmeared and dyed, and when they saved the darksome night, they sat them down and cried. So the children held each other's hands, and they were walking backwards and forwards, but they couldn't find the man again. They couldn't see him again. And their lips were stained with blackberries, with the purple of blackberries. So they'd been picking blackberries. So this is clearly September, the end of August, September, and they were covered in blackberry juice. And when night came, they sat down together and they cried. Thus wandered these poor innocents till death did end their grief. In one another's arms they died, as wanting due relief. No burial this pretty pair of any man receives, till Robin Redbreast piously did cover them with leaves. So these poor innocents, these babes in the wood, they wandered backwards and forwards until death ended their sadness, and they died in each other's arms, wanting relief from their situation. And these two, the babies, they weren't buried, and then finally a robin, or the robins, decided to cover them with leaves. And now the heavy wrath of God upon their uncle fell. Yea, fearful fiends did haunt his house, his conscience felt an hell. His barns were fired, his goods consumed, his lands were barren made, his cattle died within the field, and nothing with him stayed. And now the wrath, the anger of God came upon their uncle, and ghosts, fiends, monsters haunted his house, and his life felt like hell, and the stables of his barns were burned down, and his land was barren, nothing grew with it, and his cattle, his cows and sheep died in the field, and everything left him, nothing stayed with him. And in a voyage to Portugal 2 of his sons did die, and to conclude himself was brought to want and misery. He pawned and mortgaged all his land ere 7 years came about, and now at length this wicked act did by these means come out. So on a voyage to 2 of his sons went on a voyage to Portugal, and they died. And he was brought into a state of bankruptcy and misery, and he pawned and mortgaged all his land. He gave it to the bank for loans before 7 years had gone by. And now, finally, his wicked act became public knowledge because of this. The fellow that did take in hand these children for to kill was for a robbery judged to die, such was God's blessed will, who did confess the very truth, as here hath been displayed, their uncle having died in jail, where he for debt was laid. So the uncle, the person who decided to kill these children, to get rid of these children, was judged for a robbery, and it was God's will that the truth came out, and their uncle died in debtor's jail because he was he owed money. You that executors be made, and overseekers eke, of children that be fatherless, and infants mild and meek. Take you example by this thing, and yield to each his right, lest God with such like misery your wicked minds requite. So if you've been made an executor of a will, an executor is a person who looks after the things of someone who's died, or if you are put in charge of fatherless children, and if you're put in charge of meek and mild babies, of poor little babies, take this story as an example, and give to each person what is their right, unless God pays your wicked mind back for not doing what you've been required to do. So there you go, the babes in the wood. It's a very old story. It's traditional British story, the babes in the wood. So enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. Babes in the wood.